right?
The Kraken.
The Kraken, release it.
the Kraken's coming through your floor over here in St. John, Adam.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome back. Another edition of the Rusty Putter. We're going to be spending $1 million today again. And since we're going to be spending $1 million, we better we got a little Ric Flair drip for us here real quick. Hold on.
Woo, aviators in the Nature Boy wig. Feel like $1 million, bud. This is the Ric Flair Live style and profile.
All right, so we're styling and profiling. We better hit the timer now. That one doesn't count. I'll pay the overtime fine on that one.
Okay.
But we got Tony Mitidiero with us again.
Oh.
The last time you were on, Tone, we talked about $1 million in Frankfort, Illinois.
Yep.
And we found that, in your opinion, Crown Point might be like the sister town or the competing town on the other side of the border.
Comparable.
Okay. And so today we want to talk about what $1 million will get you on the other side of the border.
Awesome.
What's your opinion? Tell us now.
You will get a little bit different housing stock.
Yeah, I think last time we talked about Frankfurt, we
I
had
don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah. Well, I think
Use your words carefully.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be the bad guy. So I think we talked to Frankfurt. You're probably getting somewhere around 5,000 square feet, probably 4+ bedrooms, finished basement, all brick, 3/4 brick, some stuff like that. You go over to the Indiana side, you get into Crown Point. The $1 million is probably going to get you somewhere in that 3,600 to 4,200 square foot range. Probably not a finished basement, builder level finishes.
A little bit inferior level of construction for the same money.
And is there? I mean, we know that Illinois just has an older housing stock. Like people, there's been way more population there than there has been in Indiana for a while. Is that part of it, or what do you think plays into that?
There's that, and there's considerably greater higher end stock. You know, we did that analysis a few weeks ago about $1 million sales in Northwest Indiana versus Illinois, and it's tons more. It's in the thousands in Illinois, whereas it's not at even 100 in Indiana just yet. So over the years, the high-end housing stock has built up substantially more. Good. You know, you take numerous neighborhoods in Frankfort and they'll add up to what we have as a whole in almost all of Northwest Indiana.
All right.
Wow. That's a wild stat.
I love it. So as we're going through this, right, everyone, has long been this idea that I'm going to move to Indiana to have a cheaper payment, or I'm going to move to Indiana to avoid taxes or save money. But I think that at least on the home front, if you look at like the price of a home in Indiana, where it equates to a full housing expense of taxes, insurance, everything else, has kind of caught up and almost closed the gap a little bit here versus Illinois at this point. Would you agree with that, or you're not looking at all of the payment numbers like I am every day? But
no, it argues the point that there's a direct inverse relationship between taxes and value, and that's the case in everything. That's our commercial property, residential, and the public notices that. And over time, the last 25 years, the populace has realized that, right? So the money moves to the low taxes. It keeps those values high. Whereas we've had some fleeing from this stuff in the southwest suburbs because of the taxes, and that's going to drop that existing retail value of those turnover properties.
I think a lot of times you're showing houses to people on both sides, or they're trying to figure out, $1 million house. A lot of times you'll be looking, that's going to be the one you're going to live in for a while for most people, right?
Absolutely.
So you're going to have an expectation of quality. You're going to have an expectation of this, but we start to get into what you get in each state, it could get a little tricky. And when we talk about what it actually costs, or who's buying it, or who's qualifying to buy $1 million house, we talked about this in the Illinois edition the other day, and we'll talk about it here in the Indiana edition. But you'd be surprised at who can qualify to buy $1 million house and what your payment ends up being. But at about a 6.125% interest rate here, you're going to look at an all-in payment around $6,000 a month, and that's with 16% down.
16%. That's interesting. Why do we keep putting 16%?
Because we have the conforming loan limit. So $832,750. So that's where if you go above that, you end up in jumbo territory. Different underwriting guidelines, some different structures on interest rates, and some other things there. So we're just using that $1 million price point conforming loan limit, but also want to illustrate too, like everyone's afraid of this word PMI, right? PMI, the cost of private mortgage insurance in this transaction is like $110 a month. on a $832,000 loan. So don't be afraid, if you're maybe buying and shopping some of these price points, preserving some cash, so maybe you can do these upgrades.
So where do we need to be income level to do this? And maybe why don't you give us what an income level would be with really no debt load, and then like your typical, like you got a couple.
First,
maybe you got
I got to put the disclaimers on so the CFPB won't let us be. All right, now that those are gone, all right, perfect. Now I got disclaimers done. But generally, it's tough to kind of peg exact on how to qualify to buy a house, right? But
I'm looking at it. I see.
Yeah. But we're not going to publish this stuff.
Wow.
We're going to talk about it. But generally, the idea, 3 times your income, that approach, or 33% front end debt to income ratio or housing expense, this works out to about a $222,000 annual qualifying income spot.
Depending on your other debt loads.
This is just if you look at it from your house.
Okay.
So now if you actually take that, right? So we take our 222, or you can divide out your 222 by 12, right, to make it monthly. You can then multiply that number by about 45%. So you have about $2,000 more wiggle room beyond that mortgage payment and other debts to qualify for this $1 million house here.
Wow. So the $1 million house, the Escalade, and then the Toyota Corolla.
Exactly. Yeah. You need something. You need something a little more gas efficient.
Maybe Volkswagen.
But that's very achievable, especially if there's 2 income earners.
Yeah.
I mean, 222 annually. That's
I think there's always like, and I guess if you go back like when we were younger, like, oh my God, $1 million is a lot of money, and maybe $1 million, it's still a lot of money, but it's not like this unachievable price point for a lot of people now. We've had some wage growth, not enough probably, but take 2 people making $100,000 a year and you're almost there.
Where were we at in Frankfort?
We were about like 248 to 250.
A little bit more that you needed to qualify, largely because of just the taxes.
Yeah, the taxes on the house in Frankfurt were going to be like the $26,000 to $27,000 range, where here they're going to be about $9,000.
Okay.
But there's a lot of other costs that go in, like that I guess people maybe aren't aware that go on in Indiana. If you have that Escalade, right, you're going to have to pay the excise tax on your license plates. You have a couple other, as we get into this SB1, and maybe we can talk about that more in detail, the new real estate tax bill stuff here. We see that real estate taxes might come down, but we have referendums getting
taxes
passed.
are going to go up.
Yeah.
Taxes are in St. John, the people voted to increase their tax. They're going to vote to increase their tax in Crown Point. All right. They're heavy debt in Crown Point right now. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. All right. But you will have taxes coming.
Yeah, it's death and taxes, the only 2 things that are certain in life. But then we also, right, in this SB1 thing, now they're talking about local income tax here in Crown Point and St. John too, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, and that's what I'm talking about. They'll
Yep,
be voting for it so the towns can pass it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You have quality of life to take into consideration. All right, lower taxes. A lot of people will make a move for a political move. You've got the schools to take into consideration and what that state pushes as its curriculum. I know that that's very important to a lot of parents.
Yeah.
All right. And you may also, we're reaching a stage where possibly all of your friends and or family may have moved. At first, when people were moving to Northwest Indiana years ago, all of their friends were left on the other border. Now it seems on the other side of the border. Now it seems like a lot of people are catching up. Hey, all my family and friends are out here, or possibly even vice versa. All right. So today we're saying what? It's a little bit more cost effective to buy a house in Crown Point, but we started this by saying what you're going to get for your money. You are going to get a little bit less for your money for $1 million in Northwest Indiana than what you are going to get in most of the south and southwest suburbs.
Yeah. Less. Ooh, that's our time.
All right,
Less-
time.
less
We'll go to
meaning
overtake.
square footage and quality of the house. So if value is what drives your decisions, Illinois might be your move.
And would you trade fit finish and a finished basement for a little bit higher of a tax bill or a lower tax bill? Like what would be more important to you?
For me, I mean, all the things he just talked about. What are the schools? So I think the point of this thing is open your mind up a little bit and don't just follow the narrative of it's cheaper taxes. Well, like, cheap things kind of get you cheap stuff.
And the last thing, really, why we did this is $1 million shouldn't be that frightening of a figure. For a lot of people, that was like a shocking figure. We're reaching the stage where that's an attainable figure for a lot more people than what you'd think. All right. And a lot of our markets have moved to that. So consider it, and we can help you weigh the what's better, Illinois or Indiana for you.
That's all we got. Anything else? Any other parting thoughts? Who's going to win the Super Bowl here?
Oh man, I hope the Seahawks win.
Then I want to see Mario Andretti get it.
Oh, is it Daytona 500?
The clash is tonight.
All right.
Love it.
And yeah, I'm pull for the Seahawks here too. Sam Darnold, how about that? All right. Anything else? Otherwise,
No.
we're out.
Game
We're
on.
overtime.
What are you
I don't want to
doing?
I'm done. Cut the show.